with a blue dress, blue dress, blue dress, devil with a blue dress on. Welcome, welcome, welcome to NH Unscripted. I am your host, Ray Dudley, spilling my coffee everywhere. I shouldn't even have gotten out of bed, probably. When you're my age, that's what happens. Well, welcome, 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 everyone, to the WKXL Studios, 1450 AM, 103.9 FM. Both of those are in Concord. Yeah, and they're on the radio. Yeah, go figure. For those of you in Manchester, 101.9 FM. And if you just happen to love the interwebs, head on over there to nhtalkradio.com. We got archives. Yeah, we got it all out there. We certainly do. In studio with me today, I am so happy to have her, Nancy Barry from the Interlakes Theatre. Mm-hmm. Is that correct? Good morning, Nancy.
Good morning.
Before we get too deep, I need to thank my sponsor, and that would be Lakes Region Fence up there in Guilford. I had a chance the other day to take a ride with Matt McGonigal, who is the owner of the Lakes Region Fence up there. We came upon a fence, and I said, Matt, I can't, that's a gorgeous fence. It was like a 6-foot-high, beautiful cedar fence, had like this cross pattern across the top of it. It was stunning. I mean, stunning. And it was like a privacy fence or something. And he said, yeah, they had just installed it. And I've seen a lot of nice fence work. I mean, okay, that's not something I generally brag about. But this stood out in my mind. If you are interested in a fence, head over to lrfence.com, lrfence.com. If you need to break out an adult beverage, just sit there by yourself, happy as a pig, and just take a look at all the photos. They do incredible work. There's even a button out there you can click to get a free estimate. Yeah, free. In this day and age, free is good. That's lrfence.com. Lakes Region Fence in Guilford. My gosh, they do some great work. Love you, Matt. Thank you for all you do for us here. Again, in studio with me is Nancy Barry from Interlakes. I have questions, Nancy. Thank you for coming in. I mean that. Before we begin, oh my God, I was going to start printing out your resume. I swore I would run out of paper before I was ever going to get it done. It's very impressive. I mean, very
well, that's
impressive.
Nice of you to say.
I say a lot of nice things around here. I certainly do. Nancy, give us a brief overview, if you would, of like your history. You have a relationship or had with Norm Ledger.
Oh,
right?
yes.
Yeah. So kind of fill us all in here and what's going on up
I'm
there.
so glad you brought up his name.
Yes.
Norman Ledger and I are like two peas in a pod.
Oh, you knew him for a while, right?
A long time, yeah.
And you worked over there, right?
I worked there as an intern in 1983. And then the next year, I assisted the casting director in putting together the 1984 company. And by 1985, I was casting. And after 1985, Norm said, hey, you do this better than anybody. Why don't you just keep doing it? So I actually did cast for him pretty much up until the end. Until he passed away.
Really?
Yeah. Now, there were a couple of years where he brought in an artistic director, and the artistic director would say, I want to cast my own. And I would say, okay. And I, step back. But I did casting for him for years. I traveled the country with him. We went to colleges. We went to all of the casting conferences. And oh my gosh, I have so many stories.
We're here. This is Storyland Live.
I don't even know if I can begin, but I just
the clean ones. You can tell us the clean ones.
Loved doing that with him, and I just learned so much from him about how to do it, and what to look for, and understanding that we were casting for our audience, and knowing who our audience was, and knowing who would appeal to our audience. And, I met a lot of other producers in the process of that, and some of them who I ended up working for as an actor. And it was just always so interesting because, sometimes another Norman Duttweiler from Forestburg would say, "Oh, I love that guy. Oh, that he's not a New London type, but he's a."
So they have a type out there, huh?
Everybody does.
They have a type.
And so it's really like I learned so much about the whole process, and we had a good record at the barn for casting great talent. For example, at the barn, we gave Taye Diggs his first professional job.
Wait,
that was in
did you just name drop Taye Diggs?
I did, 1992. So, and he was up here in the Lakes region because that year. This is how I got. See, this is the whole story of how I got to the Lakes region. Norman Ledger in 1992. His best friend was Phyllis. No, am I doing that wrong? It wasn't Phyllis. Oh, I can't believe it. Her name just went out of my head. But
welcome to my world.
Peg Chatelier. Okay, got it. Peg Chatelier was Norman Ledger's really close friend, and she had two sons who were interested in running a theater, and so he got together with them. And they decided to have two theaters that summer, and that we were going to have a blue company and a red company. And the blue company was going to start in the Lakes region, and the red company was going to start at the barn. And what they did was they rehearsed and performed their first show, rehearsed the second show, opened it. Then what we did was we switched back and forth.
What?
So Taye Diggs was in the red company, and the red company did Godspell, West Side Story, and Can.
I can't remember. I can't believe you remember that.
Oh, yeah, I remember very clearly.
My goodness.
And Taye Diggs, he appeared in every show shirtless. That's what I remember.
That's how I like to do mine. Generally before the meds kick in.
Judas and Godspell, Riff in West Side Story, and the Serpent in Can. And so we switched back and forth. Now, Norman Ledger, it was David Ramsey and Peter Ramsey, our Peg Chatelier's sons. And David Ramsey works over at University of New Hampshire in the theater department now. And Peter Ramsey, as you know, is the executive director over at the Palace Theater. But those brothers ran that theater together. For part of the time, and then eventually, I think just David ran it by himself. But they were there for about 16 years. But anyway, Norman and I cast those two companies, the red company and the blue company. And after a year, Norman hated it. His audience was like, "Where are our interns? You give them to us. You take them away. We want our interns." So they had 8 men, 8 women every summer would come, and the audience there would choose. They'd figure out who was going to get cast in what. And directors at the barn at that time, the intern company, they were cast show by show by the directors coming in. So we would cast a rep company, and then we would have to make sure we had somebody there for all of the roles, and then the directors would come in and they would decide.
Interesting.
So it was a very interesting process. But anyway, as I said, I learned a lot. And so after I was at the barn for a little while as an artistic director. After Norman had his stroke, I was there for 2 years. He was still there. He's still coming to all the shows. He would walk over from the assisted living. He would be at all the dress rehearsals, all the kids' shows. I mean, that man, it was crazy right up to the end. This was his life.
Yeah.
And anyway, when I decided to leave the barn, I knew that the Lakes Region Summer Theater had shut down and that theater had sat empty for 1 year. So I went over to the Lakes Region and said, I'm thinking of doing this. And honestly, 6 months later, I opened a new company up in the Lakes Region.
Man.
Yeah.
That had to be a monumental task. I mean, it's not easy just to open up a...
It was crazy.
Yeah, I'll bet.
It was a lot of things had shifted in my life, and so I just said, I'm gonna do this. I'm just gonna do this, and in the beginning, nobody knew a new company had opened there.
Well, it's in the high school, right? Or wasn't it?
It is,
yeah.
And they have renovated that theater twice. Now, one of the issues that we dealt with in the beginning was that they have these horrible, hard seats.
Yeah, I've been on them.
And so
I had to rent a pillow.
Yeah, well, there you go. You have to rent a pillow.
Exactly
and
right.
that idea I stole from the barn because we had rented pillows over at the barn for the longest time until when I was there. Actually, we put in new seats there. So I've been through this new seat seat thing twice. But gorgeous cushion theaters now.
Nancy, hang on a sec. Do you hear that music?
Does that mean we have to take a break?
It does.
Okay.
Put on your dancing shoes, Nancy. We're going to dance into a break here. Nancy Barry is with me from the Interlakes Theatre. I am Ray Dudley, your happy host, coming to you atop the wonderful mountaintop studios of WKXL in Concord. We're going to be right back because we got a lot of thinking to do. It to me, baby. Oh my God, I got Mitch Ryder on the brain today. Somebody help me. In studio with me, I am your host, Ray Dudley. You are listening to NH Unscripted. In studio is Nancy Barry from the Interlakes Theatre. We are coming to you from the sweet, cool digs of the WKXL studios in Concord. 1450 AM, 103.9 FM. For those of you who still have radios, that's Concord. 101.9 FM in Manchester. And for this show and all of the other great shows that take place here at WKXL, you could walk your fingers right over to nhtalkradio.com. There are archives. There's a live button. Yeah, a live button. We stream live. Who'd have thunk it? All right. We are talking all things theater with Nancy Barry. Nancy Barry knew Norm Ledger, and she was giving me some gold. Go ahead, Nance. Continue to regale me on the in and outs of theater in New Hampshire, up there in the Lakes region. I remember having to rent a frickin' pillow in that Interlakes Theatre.
Yeah, but no more. No more. They have these really beautiful, cushy seats.
Man.
It made a huge difference when they did that renovation in 2017. It made a huge difference
Must have cost a mint.
It doesn't affect me because I rent the space.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So they did it because people were complaining. I just think, people were real. And the stadium seating that they had there wasn't really being used. They had seating that you could like push back so you could use the room as a multifunctional room. But I think it was just rarely used. Every now and then I think they used it for like testing or something. So it's just, it really wasn't. Also, the other problem was that stadium seating eventually becomes it needs repair, and the companies were not in business anymore. Like I think the company that would have had to come to repair it was not even going to be available. So they had to do something. So anyway, I'm glad they did it.
So what type of a stage is that?
It's a regular proscenium stage. The acoustics are not bad considering.
Yeah.
I think the issue that we have mostly there is that there's no orchestra pit. And you really can't put the orchestra on the left side where there's an open area. You really can't do it. So we have learned how to put the orchestra actually right on the stage. We hide them sometimes. Sometimes they're part of the show, and sometimes they are hidden. But there's they sit kind of in a long way across the back of the stage, and they're hidden by a scrim or a drop or and it seems to be the best. Acoustically for the space, but it's very tricky.
Yeah,
it's really tricky.
Imagine. We saw I saw Hairspray up there a few years ago.
Oh,
God, that
would have been
hoot.
ours.
Yeah, it was such a hoot.
2012.
Yeah, I can't. That's incredible.
Yeah, I know.
I can't remember when I went.
You know what? I used to say this about Norman because he would say, "Oh yeah, he's in the intern company in 1973," and I'd be like, "What? How do you remember that?" Well, I don't always remember. I guess I do remember what year each show was. Because, I spend a whole year working on it. So if I know what show they were in, then usually I can identify what year somebody was there.
Are there shows, we're getting kind of ahead of really what I wanted to be at this point, but are there shows that you want to put on there that for some, maybe a technical reason you can't do it? It would require something more mechanical that you can't do?
Well, no, we did Miss Saigon.
What?
I didn't have a helicopter.
You didn't? I would have rented one to you if I'd have known that.
But, you do a sound effect. You do a lighting effect. You have a ladder drop down, and they're trying to get out by ladder. And you make the effect. If you've done the work, the acting work, then we get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
There are things we
yeah.
know we can't do. A show that I was dying to do for a long time was The King and I, and we did it.
Yeah?
We just did it last
love
year.
The King and I.
In 2022. It's a show that I've always wanted to do. It's one of my favorites. There are shows that I don't do because I don't think my audience would come.
Why do you think you waited so long? I don't mean to. Forgive me. I did not mean
go
to
ahead.
jump in there.
Yeah.
The King and I, it's a classic. It's been around for a gajillion years. Why, especially if it was something you wanted to do, why do you think it took so long to do? Because it's not technically a...
It's hugely expensive.
What?
There's
royalties?
There's a costume package.
Oh.
And in this day and age, you absolutely must cast it ethnically correct. I had to have an entire separate company. So normally a company comes and many of the people are in overlapping shows. They are in more than one show.
Yep.
I hired an equity actor and actress to play Anna, Mrs. Anna and the King.
Yeah.
And then I had an entirely Asian company except for two people that are not Asian.
Wow.
Well, one other person.
You brought him in just for that show?
Yes. So I'm housing double.
Oh, my
I'm
God.
paying double. It's a costume package that's, expensive. It's not just the costume package. It's then dry cleaning all the costumes after you've used them and returning them. The set was beautiful, but it was not. We did not make it like terribly expensive, but it's up there. Yeah, it's a lot. The orchestra, it was a 13-piece orchestra. I do have live orchestras, and they're darn good.
Yeah. Are they like a local? Where are they coming from?
It's both. Like I have a whole connection, a whole network of kids from Oberlin College, or now they're graduates because I've had some of them for so long. They come back year after year. They love it. The musicians, they come. Some of them have gone off on tours, on Broadway tours. So some of them may or may not be able to come back depending on when the tour ends or if the tour is extended.
Yep.
But we also have some local folks who are terrific.
Right.
And again, every year they're like, I'm in. So I can't complain about that.
I did The King and I back in the 90s. We did over in Concord. It was for first night, back when they had first night.
For New Year's Eve?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they ended up bringing in like these massive drops that would come in. Did you have to do that too? And then like we did, all the curtains were closed. And then there was a scene that took place in front of the curtains right there on the edge of the stage.
Right, at the proscenium.
Yeah, and then they open it up.
And then you're in Thailand.
Did you have to do that as well?
We didn't quite do it that way.
Got you.
You can do it that way. That's how I did My Fair Lady. It was all drops.
Wise, all those drops were like
they are expensive.
Yeah.
But we didn't quite do. We had maybe one or two drops because of the way we created the scenery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now, did I read right? You've been at the Interlakes since 2008?
Yeah. This is our 17th year coming up.
Ooh.
In my life, I've never done anything for more than 3 years, except for this theater.
Okay, so mine that for me. What gets you out of bed to do that?
I don't know.
It's a lot of work.
Because I'm getting to the point where I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we're still doing this. Because it's a lot. Because I do it. I'm working on it every day. Because we're still like right now, we're getting out all of the passes and tickets for next summer for all the people that purchased early bird. I'm communicating with groups because we're doing group sales. I'm about to sell ads and sponsorships. All of those things are in the works, and all of those things happen before the holidays. So I'm in it thick.
So you're not just like picking the shows. You're hands on everything.
I'm hiring everybody.
You are.
I do have a production manager who's helping me with a lot of it. We've been meeting. We reworked the handbook. We're reworking contracts because as soon as January comes, I'm out casting and hiring. So my production manager and I have been working on that aspect of it.
Do you
Absolutely.
Do you travel in New York to get your cast?
I used to do it a lot, but ever since the pandemic, a lot of things have changed. But we're going to do it this year.
Yeah.
There's a big conference that we usually do in March that is staying virtual. They lost their space. There's a big renovation in the space where they've been doing. That's where all the producers come together. And over 3 days, we see, a couple hundred people a day.
Yeah.
90 seconds at a time. They get up, they sing, they do a monologue, they leave. We have callbacks where they're all night. I'm really going to miss that. One of the reasons there are two reasons.
Fire away.
One reason.
I'm having coffee while you do it. Fire away.
I guess I can talk, huh?
Sure you can.
So one of the reasons is because I love to be with the other producers, because we get to talk, because you hear from people that are doing the same thing you're doing, people that have the same struggles, people that have the same joy. You're with a bunch of people who do what you do. And they're my people, and I hardly ever get to see them anymore, and it drives me crazy. It's so sad. But the other problem is that I don't get to meet with the actors the way I used to. I used to see an actor at an audition. The Straw had auditions in New York, and I would meet them for the first time, and I'd call them back, and we'd chat, and they'd say, "Oh, I'm going to the New England Theatre Conference, the NETCs," and I go, "Oh, great, we'll see you there." And I call them back up there, and I say, "You don't have to come and see me, but if you want to just wave hello," and then they come and they chat with me, or I give them cookies, and
cookies.
Cookies, and then by the time they're in New York at my callbacks, we have a relationship.
Yeah.
That's really different.
Nancy, hang on. Do you hear that dancing music? Strap on your dance shoes, girl. Ooh, Bubba Louie, there's a whole lot of thinning going on around here. And Nancy and I are doing it. You are listening to NH Unscripted. I am your happy to be out of bed host, Ray Dudley, coming to you from high atop the WKXL studios in Concord, 1450 AM, 103.9 FM. 101.9 FM in Manchester. You happy folk? NHTalkRadio.com. Nancy and I come back. We got a lot of thinking to do. Oh, suck it to me, baby. I still got Mitch Ryder on the brain. However, I am Ray Dudley, the host of NH Unscripted, you lucky people. In studio with me today is Nancy Barry from the Interlakes Theatre. We are coming to you from the WKXL studios, 1450 AM, 103.9 FM, 101.9 FM in Manchester. Yeah, I still got the Barry White voice thing going on here. Not quite sure what's going on, but I pick up a lot of chicks with it. And you can find us at NHTalkRadio.com. All of the archives of this show and of the other great shows here at the studio. Nancy and I are chatting. She is a wealth of information. Nancy, did you tell me you have almost 60 people who have gone from the Interlakes Theatre to Broadway?
Yes, Broadway contracts, Broadway tours, or Broadway shows. Although over the summer we had 3 people open in Back to the Future on Broadway. One of them had just been with us in The King and I the year before. I don't know.
I haven't talked to anybody else.
This is what I learned from Norman Ledger, I think. So we had three in Back to the Future. I just found out that 2 people are in the Neil Diamond musical on Broadway. 2 people are either just made or are about to make their Broadway debut there. And we have one young man who started with us when he was 10 years old. In 2013, we did Les Mis and we did The Full Monty. Both required a young boy, and this kid was 10 years old. And he came in, and I said to his parents, I was like, you don't even need to teach this kid acting. He just is the part, right? And so he went through an entire career. He was with us in 2017 or 2018 in Newsies. He went on to Juilliard, and
haven't we all?
And November, was it? No, it was last week. A week ago, he started rehearsals for a Broadway show with Sarah Paulson called Appropriate, and he opens on November 29th.
What?
Yeah.
What?
And so to me, I feel like I'm finished.
You have this magic spell. What is going on there?
I don't make them talented. They come to me talented. I have a really good eye. But I also...
You think?
I think I learned it. I think I should have been a casting director in New York, and I missed my calling. Because this is really what I love the most and what I do the best. So, anyway...
Honestly, I don't know any other group around that has that kind of a record.
Either do I.
I mean, that's
brag.
That's more than an anomaly.
It's crazy. No, it is. It has to be, because it's not. That's a high number for 16 years.
Yeah.
That's a high number.
Yeah.
We've just done incredibly well. I can go to New York and go into any Broadway show, and some of my people will be on the stage. I love it.
Do you ever get to go backstage and see them?
I do.
You do?
I do. Yeah. I went back. Was it the Temptation show? Oh my gosh. Can't remember what it's called. But Nasia Thomas was one of our actresses who was in she's in 6 right now, but she was in the Temptation show, Ain't Too Proud. And so I went, and she took me backstage, and she was hilarious. She goes, "This is the only person who ever gave me a lead until I got to Broadway."
What? What?
Because I saw something in her.
Yeah.
She was with us once. She was with us a few summers, and I had wanted to cast her in Sister Act, and I said, Nasia's going to come back next year. She's with lead in Sister Act, unless she gets a Broadway show. And she goes, I'm coming no matter what. Well, she got a Broadway show. So.
Okay, so the truth is, though, you see the same people that, dozens of other directors see?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't hear anybody bragging about 60 of their former actors going on.
What can I tell you?
I am asking you. I
don't know.
Tell me.
I see it. I have helpers. I have other people that help.
Like X-ray glasses. I mean, what the heck?
I don't know.
I mean, that's that. So when you, all right, let's talk a little bit about the business. And it's interesting
because I'm going to tell you something. Our people. Sometimes my directors say, I don't see it, and I'd be like, you may not see it, but I'm going to tell you something. And sometimes, they're like on Broadway. And I think the directors want to say, like, how did that happen? But I know what Broadway's looking for. And I know what I'm looking for. I know what my audience is looking for. And I see it. And I go, my audience. And this is what you hear me say. I see somebody at an audition and I say, oh my gosh, my audience is going to love him. Or I say, you know what? He's going to be the next Broadway person that we hire.
Well, how do your directors not see that then?
Because
everybody what has in the world
everybody, but my directors help a lot. I don't want to make it sound like they don't.
Okay.
My
We're backtracking on that.
My directors are great, and sometimes they'll see something in somebody that I don't see. In the end, I make the final decision. I try to give them some say because it's they're going to be directing the show, but. I have to bring somebody there that's going to help, with the whole, if I can, with the whole season. So sometimes they don't get everybody they want.
I'm getting
but it's
mind
good.
Blown
it's
here.
Great. We get great people, and you know what? This shows. I really have great directors.
Where are they coming from?
They come from.
How do you get them?
They come from New York.
They do.
Yeah, a lot of them.
They do.
Yeah.
New York.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't even know how to. I get.
They're New York people. They're New York directors. They're New York writers. I have a guy who comes from Argentina, who has been on Broadway himself in New York. He goes back and forth between the two countries. He comes and he does a lot of choreography and directing for me.
Nancy, you're gold. You are gold, girl. I'm so glad you accepted my invitation. I don't know where to go here. I'm in the presence of theater gold. I'm stunned.
So,
I'm stunned.
they have a contest in the Lakes region. I know it's all for the people to get advertising money out of us, but we have.
She didn't mean that.
We have won the voting for the best live theater in the Lakes region for 5 years in a row. All 5 years they've had the contest. So our people really like us. That's good.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get into the weeds.
Okay.
You obviously have a feel for what your audience wants to see. Mm-hmm. There's a certain demographic that you target. I don't know what it is, but how do you come about figuring out what you, because you have limitations, obviously. I mean, if it's a proscenium theater without a lot.
It's the hardest decision every year is figuring out what shows to do.
And how do you do that?
We do a certain amount of surveying, but and it's changed because in 16, 17 years, the people have gotten older. Some people are now gone and there are new people in. Mm-hmm. When I first started, nobody had a computer. Nobody who was 80.
You didn't have to bring that up. That's honesty. I was not expecting. 20 years later,
they're actually buying tickets online, but they weren't doing that when I started. So it does change. Also, generationally, 16, 17 years ago, people really liked shows from the 50s, and then it sort of became the 60s. And now there's a big attraction for people. I'm doing Legally Blonde this summer. You know why? Because the 80s shows are hot. Okay. 17 years ago, it was the 50s and 60s shows. Now, I'm not saying we don't do any of that because those people are still interested. So next year, we're doing Newsies because I want to have a family show.
Okay.
And
now, you did Newsies before.
I did.
I did.
In 2017. We just did it for 1 week and it sold out. I didn't have enough seats. So I decided to do it again. Also because I really did want to.
You would bring in a show for 1 week? That's a lot of work, isn't it?
Yes, it is. But I love slamming it out with a big hit at the end. I love it when we don't have enough seats for everybody. I love it. Last year we sold out Footloose for a week.
400 and something, almost 500 seats.
Yeah, for that show. So because it's only a 1 week show. So we're starting with Newsies, and as I said, family show. Then after that, we're doing Chicago.
I love Chicago.
Another thing that's got a lot of subject material that has to do with the news, right? Sensationalism and all of that.
Yeah.
And the famous lawyer. And then after Chicago, we're doing Legally Blonde, which I've never done. I've never done it. It's really not.
I'm not telling the audience what face you just gave me. That's between you and me, Nancy.
I'm watching a lot of Legally Blonde clips right now, I gotta say.
Yeah.
And
it's been done recently a lot lately.
Well, some people have done it, and everyone tells me it's done very well. So I'm like, okay, we'll do it. Yeah. Every time I say Legally Blonde to my audience when I was announcing the season, they're like, whoa! I'm like, okay.
They just like pink and they like little dogs. What can I say?
I'm crazy. Okay, so and then at the end, we're doing $1 Million Quartet.
Oh, my God, really?
Yeah, a lot of people don't know what it is. I want to tell you what it is.
Yes, hang on.
Okay.
Woo! My gosh, I got my white jazz gloves on. I'm shaking my hands as Nancy and I are dancing out through the next break. There's a lot of thinking going on here. And Nancy and I have a lot more funkin' to do. You are listening to NH Unscripted. I am your happy host, Ray Dudley. We are coming to you from the bunkers of WKXL Studios, 1450 AM, 103.9 FM. Concord, yeah, you radio folks. 101.9 FM in Manchester. NHTalkRadio.com is the URL. Nancy and I'll be right back. Hang on. Welcome back to NH Unscripted. Oh, I'm so happy to be out of bed today. Nancy Barry from the Interlakes Theatre is here with me. And we are coming to you high atop the WKXL Studios in Concord, 1450 AM, 103.9 FM, both in Concord, just rolls right off the tongue. 101.9 FM in Manchester. And you can go into NH Talk Radio. Don't do it yet. I'm begging you. Hang on. We got a lot more thinking to go on here. NHTalkRadio.com. Nancy. Mind blown. Doesn't take much, I guess, at my age, but my gosh. Before we go too far, you have something you want to talk about, $1 Million.
$1 Million Quartet. It's just that there's nothing, when you do the Buddy Holly story, you know what it's about, right? Yeah. But when you do it, which we've done a lot, but when we do $1 Million Quartet, I find a lot of people haven't heard of it. So a real thing happened in 1956 at Sun Studios in Memphis, Tennessee, all on the same day. Carl Perkins, Johnny Cash, Elvis Presley, and newcomer Jerry Lee Lewis were all in the same studio. And they had like a jam session, recording session, and this is the story. It's a real story.
I am. So you have talent that can do all four of those?
Oh, wow. That's yes, I do.
Are they like impressions, or are they just people doing their songs?
They embody, I don't know how to say it. We try not to do like It's not like an impression. It's not an exterior thing.
Yeah.
They're people who sort of embody the personality. I have some of them. I don't have all of them yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good grief. You must be so excited to go to casting.
One of the reasons I avoid sometimes doing shows like this, because I know, like, they don't just have to be able to play the parts. They've got to play the instruments.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's
Good
rough.
point.
It's really hard. I mean, Jerry Lee Lewis, we're not kidding around, right?
Yeah.
They've got to really, and I want them to look like the guy, and I want him to sound like the guy, and I want he has to be able to play the piano, and he's got to have that he's crazy.
Yeah, you think?
He's got to have that crazy going on.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, how do you even go audition for that? What kind of a notice
Well,
you about?
what's interesting
I'm looking
now is
for
that-
someone crazy who can play the piano, is thin, wild. I mean, what? How do you pick that?
The only good news is that there are some people who have made a career out of doing this show since it was on Broadway. And I saw it on tour in Boston, and I said to my friend, "Oh my gosh, my audience would love this show." But I haven't done it because when I survey them, they don't pick it because they don't know what it is. I survey. You can survey just on title.
Yeah.
And because I survey just on title, because then I know how many people are coming off the street. If I survey and give them all the information, they go, "Oh, it's $1 Million Quartet. That sounds great. I want to come." But is Joe Schmo on the street going to know what that is?
Probably not.
Right. So that's unfortunately, it's kept me in a situation where I'm still doing movie titles.
Oh, yeah. Footloose.
I'm still doing movie titles
I hear you.
because I have to fill the house. It's very expensive to do what we do. And, you can only raise your ticket prices so much.
Yeah.
So it's tough.
Do you do all musicals up there?
I do now.
You do?
Yeah.
What? So, meaning you did not
My
always
first year
do
I did
musicals?
Lend Me a Tenor and it was great, but I've been doing a lot of musicals.
So
I've been doing musicals
why?
because my people say they want to see musicals and they want to see Happy and it's summer, we want to have a good time.
Yeah.
They're not. I mean, I did Les Mis. It was a stunning production.
Yeah.
But a lot of people were like, "Yeah, we're not going to come. This is kind of sad. It's kind of long."
It's a classic. What's wrong with those people?
It's summer. There's a definite.
What, Les Mis
This is what
doesn't go good with your mint chocolate chip ice cream? I mean, what's going on up there?
Yeah, I mean, it's not like it didn't sell, but it didn't like sell out. Like you have expectations for a show, and it did that. That was not what happened.
I was going to ask. Okay,
I've learned.
before we go too far,
Yeah.
I really need you to give out the website information and where you're located. I mean, folks down here probably don't even know where the Interlakes is.
We're at the Interlakes Auditorium, the community auditorium, which is housed in the high school.
Yeah.
And it's in Meredith, and the website is interlakestheatre.com. And theater is spelled Theatre. You'll find it either way, but RE. And that's because theater with the RE indicates the art. And theater, Theater, is about the house, where it is.
I did not know that differentiation. See, again, it's a good thing I get out of bed. the things I learn.
Well, I'm old.
So you understand. Oh, don't set me up. Nancy, you understand your demographics probably as well as anybody. So how's the competition up there? I know the Winnipesaukee Playhouse, I don't mean to bring them up on your time here, but they're right down the road, kind of ish. What's up? Gunkwood's up there. If you go far enough, you'll get up to M&D and North Conway.
Yeah, some of our people go to Gunkwood.
Yeah,
they do both. And some of them go to North Shore.
So you're not finding
some of them go to the Winnie.
Yeah.
Well, when there's a
like
big
brutal?
musical overlapping with us, it's gonna impact us. But in the end, eventually, anyone that's coming to my show will come.
Yeah.
I don't know. They keep voting me the best, so I figure we're doing okay.
Did she just drop that?
She did.
Nancy, you dog.
What am I going to say?
Voted best. Please elaborate on that.
It's very serious.
Voted the best.
Best live theater in the Lakes region.
That's
5 years.
Impressive.
Every year.
Come on, that's impressive.
It scares me to death because I don't want, it's very, very important to me. Because it's voted on by our patrons. It's voted on by people
Which is
in the
hugely
community.
important.
That's those are my customers.
Yeah, they pay, right.
You know? So I'm happy. That's all.
Are there shows that you would love to do there but can't for one reason or another? Mechanically, I mean, something that you just don't have the ability to put it in the house?
A couple of people have asked for Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah, so?
You can't really drop a chandelier.
I would not put it past you at this point. You would find a way. I have
I don't
that
know.
feeling.
If I really wanted to do it, I would find a way. But
Yeah.
You know.
So there's no other show. So are there shows that are in like a rotation that you like? The audience just loves it, and every 3 years, like Mamma Mia or something, you're just going to bring it up and stick it in there. You know for sure.
Not necessarily.
Oh.
I mean, another theater, did a long run of Mamma Mia, and turned out they didn't sell it out.
What?
And, they had done it and I had done it, and I think people had had enough of it.
Wow.
I can't tell you. There are certain shows I'd like to do. I haven't, the royalty companies have to give us permission to do them. So
yeah,
we'll wait and see.
Royalties are brutal. I don't think most folks understand how brutal royalties
1
can
week
be.
of $1 Million Quartet is $10,000.
Dang!
6 performances, $10,000. Yep.
How many shows? Here's a math question for all you whizzes. How many shows do you have to sell to make any kind of a profit off a $10,000 royalty?
I never make a profit.
Oh. I think I just shed a tear. What? You have to pay people and stuff. I mean, to break even?
Yeah, barely.
Seriously?
Sometimes.
What?
Sometimes.
This is my stunned face.
Listen,
For those of you on the YouTube channel.
It's certainly not ticket
we
sales.
don't have one. This is my stunned face. What? Are you serious?
Okay. Yeah. No, because we're paying people. We have housing. I have to house 55 people at any given time, sometimes up to 70. It's like 74 people within the whole season, but 55 people at any given time through a normal season. So I'm paying for housing. I'm dealing with royalties. I'm dealing with marketing, box office staff, designers, technicians.
My God.
Yeah, it's a lot.
A lot?
It's
That's
a lot.
an understatement.
It's a lot.
55 people. You house the
Lucky my dad was a CPA. I learned a lot of tricks.
No,
No, I don't mean bad tricks. I just mean, you just figure out.
You know the IRS tracks this show. You know that.
I work
Just
my
kidding.
butt off to make it happen. That's all.
So are you saying you go into a deficit every year?
Sometimes. But luckily we have, in addition,
my
ticket
shocked face.
sales would never cover it. We have ticket sales, we have advertising, we have sponsors.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we do a donor campaign.
My gosh.
We've had a lot of very
Yeah.
generous donors.
Yeah. Like who?
Especially when I go to them and I say, we really need help us, and they do. We're trying to find some housing options
I don't
that
know
can
where
be
I wanna go with
long-term
that.
housing options. So
Yeah, no, I can see that
my
being a
donors-
difficulty.
in the Lakes region, yeah, everybody's got a place sitting around they want to rent to you for practically nothing.
Yeah, in the summertime, right? Yeah. How's that going?
Hello.
Yeah, good grief. I wanted to ask you, can you tell the audience who may not know you or anything about you, your background a bit? I know you went to Emerson and...
I went to Emerson twice.
Yeah, oh.
I did my undergrad.
Wasn't enough to go on.
No, I had to stay. I was there. I graduated Emerson in 3 years, my first degree. And so I stayed and did a second degree for another 2 years. I was there for 5 years.
Really?
Yeah. And then I moved to New York. Moved to New York for a while. And then eventually I had a couple of other theater endeavors and eventually landed up here in New Hampshire because of Norman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You teach voice lessons, right? You
Yeah.
give voice lessons and all that.
I teach voice
You're
lessons.
underselling yourself, girl.
I work at some of the high schools. I'm doing a show at Tilton School right now.
How did we get into that so late? Oh, yeah, I hear the music. Is that true, Kat? God, how can that happen? You have been listening to NH Unscripted. I am your happy host, Ray Dudley. Nancy Barry from Interlakes Theatre up in Meredith has been with me today. Thank you so much, Nancy. I appreciate it. We are coming to you high atop the mountainous WKXL studios in Concord. 1450 AM, 103.9 FM for those of you who still use radios, and 101.9 FM in Manchester. The URL is nhtalkradio.com. Gosh, I am the luckiest man on earth. I'll see you the next time. Head up to Meredith. Go see Nancy up there at the Interlakes Theatre.